What do you guys think about all the minis that are popping up here in the RC world? Are you over it, or are you excited to see all the different options that we have? I actually think it's a pretty good thing because minis you can run anywhere, anytime, and actually right now I can't run anything that I've been building up and videoing for you guys because it's snowing outside again. So here's a perfect time where I could just grab a mini and go into my living room and drive it around, whether it be an off-road truck or even a scale crawler like this. And because it's snowing out today, I thought, you know what, let me just switch things up from what I was working on and turn this new Redcat Ascent Scout into a project. So I grabbed 12 parts. I've been stocking up on some Redcat parts, and I grabbed 12 of them that I'm gonna throw on this rig today. Let me show you what I got. So I've got a bunch of parts from Redcat, some of their aluminum goodies in bronze. So here is the servo mount. This is the lower skid, machined aluminum and bronze. And then the diff covers. I had to change up the diff covers. They need to have some style to them. Let's see, I also got a bunch of parts from Power Hobbies. I got some shocks. I wanted to go with some all aluminum shocks for it. Got the transmission case, and somewhere in here is the transmission gears. There we go, metal gears for it because the stock gears in there are plastic. Also went with the center drive shafts from Power Hobby. These are stainless. And then I got their brass links. This is a full set, so everything you need, even the steering links. And then of course, I'm gonna need some wheels and tires, right? So I went with their brass wheels. I got the 1.2s. I got the Style A tires that they have to offer. They come with foam inserts. Then of course, I gotta swap out the electronics. You know, the ready to run electronics that are in here, not too bad, just for having fun, but I gotta go and upgrade. So I'm gonna go with a Reefs 55 micro and then a FuryTech system. This is the system with the receiver in it. The Cedar motors, that should give me a nice smooth throttle response. And I think this is a pretty good selection of parts for some first mods on this Scout. So let's head over to the bench and get these installed. So I basically have a full teardown situation here. I mean, I've got suspension parts and driveline parts, wheels, tires, electronics, and the best way to go about this isn't piece by piece. I think I should really just rip the whole truck apart. So I'm gonna be reusing a lot of the hardware, the ball bearings, and yeah, let me just start getting this thing apart. Well, the rig is apart, and this is pretty much everything left that I'm going to need off the original truck: the chassis, the axles, some hardware in this tray over here, and I've got a big pile of spare parts left over now. I went and threw some of the screws that I'm going to be reusing onto the bags of new parts just so I could keep track of everything. Here are some of the link screws that I need, some diff cover screws, but it's time to get this thing back together. And I'm actually going to start with the bronze diff covers just because I thought they were a cool look. They also offer these in brass if you want to add some weight, but I really chose it because of the look. Obviously, when you're customizing your rig, style comes into play, so that's why I went with some of the bronze stuff, but I'll just go throw these on. It's just 2 screws, really easy to do, and I'll start attaching some of the links to it. And for these, I did go with brass, so that's got to add some weight. Obviously, it's a scale truck, so I'm not worried about too much weight with this particular build. Obviously, you can go wild with brass, really weigh down the truck so it sticks to the rocks, but I'm not gonna go crazy with this. I've got some other brass stuff that's gonna go on there. So let me get this stuff together, show you what it looks like. So I've made some progress here. I've got some option parts installed on the axles. Everything's looking really good. Love the look of the diff covers on these axles. Definitely breaks up the all black look of the stock where they just had some plastic diff covers on. Also have some of the links installed, and I actually had to go and install this front servo mount because this side of it is threaded for the screw that holds the links on. And I've kind of run into a little bit of a problem since I'm switching up the shocks. There's no hardware with these links, but there is hardware included with the shocks, so I could go attach the lower links on with this supplied hardware. So I kind of wanted to stop and just talk to you about these shocks. They're a nice aluminum shock from Power Hobby. Love that the pivot balls are pre-installed on these. Some of these aftermarket parts, or aftermarket companies, they don't install the pivot balls, and what you have to do with some of these is put these little rubber O-rings on. It could be a pain, but with Power Hobby, it's pre-installed. But the shocks themselves aren't filled with oil, so you're gonna have to fill them up. I'm just gonna go with a 20 weight oil. Make sure you don't overfill them, so it hydrolocks, which means you won't be able to push the shock shaft up. I'm gonna go get these filled up with oil, install them onto the axles, get those links on. I'm probably gonna have to go and use this hardware with the lower skid as well, then get everything mounted up to the chassis. Then I'll stop, show you how everything looks. Now it's starting to look like a rig again. Love the look of the bronze and the brass even more. The shocks, I think, work well. I think I might have to go and swap out the springs. They did give me silver springs, which seems to be a little bit lighter, but once I get some weight on it and get it crawling, we'll see how they work. The other thing I wanted to point out is there are two different size screws for the shock. So if you do pick up these shocks, the longer screw, I believe, goes on the top, because if you put it in the bottom, it'll bottom out in the axles here. I think it'll push against those bearings in there. But next up, I think I have to move on to the transmission. So I got this Power Hobby transmission case. This is aluminum, so that's going to work out well. And then I got the all metal gears from Power Hobby, the low range gears. And since I'm putting the transmission together, I have to put the motor in as well. So there's the FuryTech system. FuryTech has a bunch of different options as far as brushless systems that you could put in this. I just went with this one because it was a combo that has the receiver and the speed controller with it. I'm going to get the transmission parts together now, and actually I'll have to slide in these slider drive shafts as well. These are stainless steel from Power Hobby. This will be a nice upgrade over the stock composite drive shafts. Here we go, transmission's back in the truck. However, there were a few problems that I had while putting it together. First up, the FuryTech pinion gear is one tooth too big for the Power Hobby gear set. So I had to take that off and press on the metal gear that came with the Power Hobby gears. Not too big of a deal, just hopefully it holds up because it is a press fit. Number two is the Power Hobby drive shafts. One of the screws snapped off. I think there was a burr inside the hole and it just bound everything up and it quickly snapped off. So hopefully there's enough screws still left in there, but if I ever have to do maintenance, that's going to be a bit of a problem. And then number three, the aluminum casing from Power Hobby and the Redcat Racing lower skid plate, they didn't quite work together properly, so I had to file off the edges of the gear case just so it fit in this like rounded rectangular opening of that skid plate. Not too big of a deal. I mean, it only took me like an extra 5 minutes. My only big concern was that screw that snapped off, just having to do some maintenance later on. But next up, I'm going to get into the electronics. I got rid of the battery tray. That's because I'm going to put the battery up front, and then I'm going to use these side plates here to mount up the electronics, and I'm going to throw the reef servo in. And there's the electronics install. I've got everything nicely wired up, just a couple zip ties. That reef servo wire is really long, but just wrap the wires up over here. Two-side tape the electronics down. Definitely check out the VHB tape from 3M. I'll have a link for this in the video description below. Definitely the best tape you can get for securing RC electronics. Threw the battery up front, and yeah, now it's just time to bolt up these wheels and tires. Well, actually, I got to assemble these wheels and tires, but these are going to add some weight on all four corners, help settle in the truck. I can't wait to drive this thing. There's the wheels and tires on the rig. I'm really happy with my choice. It looks good with the Scout body. They went together pretty easily. Actually wound up using the Allen wrench that came with the kit. It just fit the hardware better. But one thing with these wheels is it didn't come with enough hardware for this center section here where you would normally bolt on, let's say, a hub for a 10 scale wheel. It's got the 6 screws in the center, and there just wasn't enough hardware in the package to go and do that. But at least I've got that bead lock ring look to it. Wanted to give you guys a weight, but unfortunately my much more scale that I've had forever gave up the ghost, and it's not working anymore, so I couldn't give you any of the weights on the stuff. I got to go get a new scale. Wasn't expecting that when I was making the video. Also went and swapped out the shock springs. Once I had this all together, put it down on the bench, it was all just jacked up and there was no way to lower the chassis a little bit. You want to run a little bit of droop in it. So I swapped out the springs, and now I've got, you know, a little bit of droop in the chassis, which is going to work out well. But I'm really happy with the build. I'm happy with everything that I picked out. Again, my only concern is that one screw that snapped off. Obviously, that is a huge bummer. With these lower cost parts, sometimes you get lower quality hardware. That'll be a problem sometime in the future that I'll deal with. But like the rest of it, I mean, I like the look of the front of it now. A little bit wider of a wheel to grab onto the rocks, or actually the hanger obstacles, which I'm going to set up now because it's like 10 degrees outside, and that's just way too cold to go outside and run. So I'm going to set up some obstacles. We'll see how the Project Scout performs. Okay guys, here's my hanger obstacles. Well, most of them. I'm missing the mud pit because I had a little catastrophe with the BBs. They ran out all over my storage room floor, but these are going to be a lot of fun. Now, I've powered up the Redcat Scout, and we've got a problem here. This gear set is really loud. Listen to this. That thing is like a blender. It's almost too loud to drive, but I'm going to keep driving. I actually took the transmission apart, filled it with grease just in case, just trying to quiet it down really. That's not the problem. I also wound up drilling out the transmission case to move the motor, thinking maybe the pinion gear was causing the problem. That's not the case. So this test is going to be quite loud, but as you can see, this thing, it handles well. So at least it's got that going for it, but man, that thing is loud. Listen to that. Oh, that is just rough. But anyway, all right, let's get past that. Let's check out the crawling ability. Nice smooth throttle control from that FuryTech system. I didn't even attack that right. It's still working pretty well. Let's see if I can get it straightened out on these pipes here. This tire's got some good traction. Definitely those brass wheels letting this thing hook up. I'm dragging a rear axle off the side. Look at that. Come on, let's go. Just muscle through it. All right. Oh, it's so loud. Yeah, I'm definitely just I'm gonna go back to the plastic gears. But let's just crawl up this bridge. Well, the mountain for the bridge. Yeah, my only problem with this build is those transmission gears being so incredibly loud. I can't get over it. Got that new center section for the bridge. I think they came out with that, but you can see the mountain still buckle a little bit. It'll tip up. Man, that thing looks good. Nice slow throttle control. Plenty of steering from the reef servo. Look at this, I'll just crank it. Oh, sounds so rough. Hit the frame bender. This is a good looking truck. For the most part, all these mods, I would definitely recommend them. Would not recommend that gear set. I don't even know if I'm going to put it in the video description. All right, guys, for the most part, I'm going to say this was a successful build. Just don't go with those gears. Again, I'll have links for everything in the video description below. The Redcat Scout, fun indoor rig. Great for project builds.